Right now, a group of 4 Democratic lawmakers is in El Salvador demanding the return of the mistakenly deported Maryland father, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The Trump administration is refusing to bring him home despite a Supreme Court order to facilitate his return. Joining us now, one of those Democratic lawmakers, Florida Congressman Maxwell Frost. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you know? Is there any chance you'll be meeting with Abrego Garcia while you're there?
Well, we're actually about to do a press conference to speak a little bit about this, but we got word at the embassy that our request has been denied by the government here locally. They say it's because we're not here on an official capacity. This is part of the reason why Representative Robert Garcia and I sent a letter to Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee asking for this to be an official CODEL. But we're not giving up. We're going to continue. We have more meetings scheduled for the rest of the day. But part of this, too, is making sure that we keep the conversation alive. We're building off of the trip of Senator Van Hollen, and we're not the first members here, and we're not going to be the last.
Well, if you're able to, can you tell me about the meetings that you have scheduled? Do you have any realistic expectation that the position will change, that you may actually be able to see him, to meet with him, to talk to him?
Our hope is that the position will change, but we'll have to see. Of course, this government is very friendly towards the Trump administration and not very friendly to elected Democrats that are here. And the whole reason we're here is it's about Abrego Garcia, but it's also about the rule of law, and it's about ensuring that everybody has due process in our country. And the fact of the matter is the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of this man to the United States, and they're refusing to do so. And from our conversations and our meetings with the embassy, it seems like there is no, there's been no orders given to do this locally with the local U.S. officials that are here. So we have more meetings coming up with a lot of the folks doing the work locally, a lot of human rights organizations around the prisons, around the jails. We're still not full confirmation of what facility he's being held in. So there's still more meetings for the rest of the day. Our hope is we can see him and at a minimum get confirmation of where he is.
As you advocate for the Trump administration to return him to the United States, I want to play the message today from the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt.
We did not make a mistake. We have always maintained that this was an individual who needed to be deported from our country. To the Democrat Party, who thinks that they are going to bring this foreign terrorist back to the United States of America to live a peaceful and happy life, that is never going to happen.
You heard her message to you and other members of your party. She says he will never live a peaceful and happy life in the U.S. What do you say to that?
It just shows that they have no regard for the rule of law, and they can talk all they want on Fox News and spill all the BS they want. The fact of the matter is it was their administration, when all this started, that admitted that they made a mistake in court documents, speaking to the Supreme Court, that they made a mistake. That's the whole reason this decision was handed down. They're trying to appeal things left and right. But the fact of the matter is right now, they are not obeying a Supreme Court decision. And everyone should be very concerned about this. Of course, this is a constitutional crisis, but also this is going to have real impact for people across the country. The reason I'm here is because this impacts my constituents. The Donald Trump in the Oval Office talked about the fact that next he wants to go for quote unquote homegrowns. He's talking about U.S. citizens, sending U.S. citizens here to El Salvador. So this is something we all have to be not just alarmed about, but we have to do things about it. And this is part of the reason I'm here with Representatives Garcia, Dexter, and Ansari, because we have a certain privilege being members of Congress. We can come here, ask these tough questions, go to these places, and make sure that the conversation is top of mind for Americans. Everybody should be concerned about this. So Caroline can say whatever the hell she wants. She's just saying whatever Trump wants her to say. But at the end of the day, we have to continue to fight, because there's going to be an end to this story. And the end that we want is for him to be back in the United States and he can go through his due process there.
We only have a minute left, but where do you see that going? Is it through the courts? I think reasonably you probably don't have an expectation that you're going to be able to meet with him. You don't have an expectation that Donald Trump is going to change the position of his administration. So where does this go? How do you accomplish what you want to accomplish?
It's going to be the courts and it's going to be the people. Of course, they've appealed, and we think there's going to be another decision that goes up to the Supreme Court. They're going to continue to make up lies.
Times calls, quote, essentially the same attack plans on a separate Signal group chat that included Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg on the very same day. Sources tell NBC News that 13 people, including his wife, were on this particular separate group chat, and that Hegseth was using his personal phone. This morning, Hegseth dismissed the reporting about him disclosing attack plans to his wife and others on an unsecured messaging app as a, quote, hit piece. The White House defended him, the press secretary saying, quote, no classified information has been shared, end quote. The New York Times reports that what Hegseth shared on the chat was, quote, essentially the same attack plans that were in the group chat started by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, including the schedules of the fighter jets launching the strikes. When that story broke last month, national security experts and officials said that it was incredibly hard to believe that those attack plans would not be classified. And news that the second Signal chat is just the latest in a string of controversies at the Pentagon right now. There's Jeffrey Goldberg revealing that Hegseth texted him war plans not even a month ago. Since then, we've learned that Hegseth has been taking his wife to meetings with foreign officials where sensitive information has come up, and that the Pentagon had arranged a briefing on potential war plans with China for Elon Musk, who has a lot of business in China and is a top defense contractor. On Friday, Hegseth fired 3 of his closest aides and advisors. All that has happened in the last 30 days. It's why the call is now coming from inside the House. A once loyal Hegseth aide calling for Trump to remove Hegseth. Former Pentagon spokesperson John Elliott writes in Politico this, quote, the last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon. It's becoming a real problem for the administration. The Pentagon focus is no longer on war fighting, but endless drama. Joining our conversation, NBC News national security correspondent Courtney Kube. Also joining us, Secretary Frank Kendall, former Secretary of the Air Force during the Biden administration. Mr. Secretary, I start with you and just your sense of the crises roiling the Pentagon.
Well, I think we've reached a point where the solution to this problem is getting pretty obvious now. There's a certain latitude with a new appointee when they come in, but Secretary Hegseth has pretty much demonstrated that he's really not up to the job that he has. And we're talking about that right now instead of other things I'm sure the president would rather we be talking about. And there's a point for any political appointee when you become an embarrassment to the administration and a distraction from higher priorities, certainly, that it's time for you to go. And it would appear that we're there now. President Trump may not have reached that conclusion yet, but it's hard to come to any other conclusion.
Courtney, I know we're so many years post-irony and that irony is dead and buried, but the idea that the Trump administration and the Pentagon and the national security apparatus are ensnared in an all-encompassing, easily understandable debacle about disclosing classified information on personal phones and personal messaging apps is unbelievable. And the notion that Trump is tolerant to what feel like constant lapses in judgment from Pete Hegseth needs to be explained to me by somebody like you. How are we here?
I have to say, Nicole, when you ran through all of that in the intro in the last 30 days, I remember why I am so exhausted, because there has been so much that's been backed in the past month, starting with the Atlantic story, the first Signal chat. Remember at the time, the most grievous error that the administration saw was the fact that a journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, was added to that chat. And that sort of overshadowed the fact that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth texted information on that chat that, no matter what the Pentagon says about it not being classified, was clearly information about an upcoming military operation, an imminent military operation with manned aircraft, manned ships, people who would be in direct danger if that information got out, and how potentially dangerous that was. Well, now fast forward, we now know it's the second beat to this story is the fact that Secretary Hegseth himself created another Signal chat where he also shared information of a similar dangerous nature to U.S. men and women in uniform. But in this case, the information wasn't going to cabinet officials. It wasn't going to senior people in the Trump administration. In fact, it was going to relatives. His brother, who does work here in the Pentagon, but he has a role that deals with Department of Homeland Security here and Homeland Defense. His wife, she has no role here at the Pentagon. We have asked multiple times if she has a clearance and never gotten a response. And to his private attorney, as you mentioned, who also is now here in some capacity in the Navy Reserves. But again, the key to this was the information that was provided here. Now, according to the Atlantic text chat, the first thing that Secretary Hegseth texted was that the mission is a go. As soon as the mission is a go, the information changes to a whole new set of classification. Essentially, it is on a need-to-know basis that information would go out. And that is because once it's a go, ships are moving, aircraft are getting ready to start launching, and there, again, men and women's lives could be at stake. And only the people who would really need to know the specifics of the launch plan, of the times, of when the bombs would be dropping, only they would have access to that. And at this point, Nicole, it makes no sense why relatives of the Secretary of Defense would need to know. It looks on its surface that he was just bragging about the operation that was about to be underway. And a new development also late last week, it's part of this an investigation that's here at the Pentagon looking into who's providing this information. Well, 3 of his closest advisors now have been escorted out of the building. And the only reason that we've gotten here from the Department of Defense is that it's as part of this leak investigation. Then today, when he was Secretary Hegseth at the Easter egg roll at the White House, when he was asked about why they were fired or why they were moved from their jobs, he specifically called them leakers. Nicole, the amount of events that are occurring here at the Pentagon every day and the dramatic lack of information the public is getting about them is something I've never seen here before.
It's all crumbling. It's crumbling with Trump's press secretary. It's crumbling with Hegseth. The whole team is falling apart. And, like, some of that, like, with Hegseth, it's him. It's him and Donald. And, like, leave it. I'm not going to defend leave it, but, like, how can you do that job? Seriously, how? I'm not saying she couldn't do better. I'm not saying I could pick one of you guys, and God forbid you had to do that job. I don't know how many billions they would have to pay you. And to be Trump's press secretary. And I know most of you wouldn't do it, but I bet you guys would all do a better job. But, like, imagine how hard of a job it would be. Even for a good president, it's a hard job. You have to stand up there and take questions from the media, and some of the media is hostile, or some of the questions will be fair, but very difficult to answer, and you had a bad news day, and even if you do your best, it's hard. But imagine doing it for Trump. Imagine having to stand up there for Trump. I couldn't do it. No, put aside the lie. Like, I'm lying. Imagine trying to defend. Oh, the president said he wanted to, annex Canada today again. Oh, the president wants to conquer Panama. Oh, the president just said that this world leader's an idiot or something. Oh, the president just got, the new details have emerged about potential things he did to women 30 years ago. Do you have any comment on that, Miss Leavitt? Like, imagine. This is what it's like in the Trump administration. It's all chaos. This is what I said earlier. This is why ultimately everyone either leaves Trump, gets fired by Trump, or is thrown under the bus to go to jail or disgrace to save Trump.